We are here between two sprints. I'm your host, Matt Tometz, my co host, Adam Rolfe, and our guest of honor today, Will Collins of Fast University. And look at us, we are all between two sprints. So, Will Collins, the owner, founder, all of the stuff, Fast University. I don't even know how many side business hustle things. This guy's a hustler, entrepreneur through and through. So, before I butcher your background even more, fill in all the gaps, tell the people who you are, and then we will get into it.
All right. So I'm a coach. I work with athletes internationally and domestic. I do speed, strength training, and also consult. I do marketing as well. Have my own clothing brand. Um, I'm a father and a husband, and I think that those are most of the most important hats that I wear currently.
Fantastic. So there's definitely more stuff. I'm glad I tossed you the mic for that.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Will, a power user of the 1080, you've probably seen him on social media, mainly Instagram, doing all the overspeed, working with some fast athletes, high schoolers, pros, everything in between. But let's go back to the origin. Kind of what was the origin, the genesis? What got you into 1080? What finally put you over the edge to kind of dive in? Take us through the beginning.
Yeah, when I first saw the equipment, I believe it was some of the European athletes. I seen the coach from Luxembourg, I believe, and a few other coaches. I think Dodo had a unit out in, um, England.
London. Yeah.
Yeah, London. Yeah. So I saw that. I was like, what is this? I seen a cord pulling somebody. I was like, it's giving resistance. Okay, this is fancy resistance. All right. Then from there, I started to see some overspeed training done, and that's when it really caught my eye. And that's really what took me over the edge. I did some research on what was the benefits of overspeed. And, in our sport, the ability to do max velocity um, is very limited. We can only do a certain amount, like, at true max velocity. So to be able to see an equipment that nearly doubled the ability, meaning that we can get two times as much of that type of stimulus in a year, was already a strong selling point for me. So from there, I looked into it and found a way to get connected with you guys.
So the overspeed piece, is it the ability to get up to speed? Is it being able to hold speed a little bit longer because it's pulling you the whole time? Kind of what aspect of applying it was kind of the big light bulb, if that makes sense?
The big thing for specifically for sprinting at the world class level, and even in the in the youth level, but more specifically the higher elite level for high school, college, and professional, is being able to adapt to the position, cadence, and timing of being able to handle max velocity runs. So the fact that you could only do about two runs truly at max velocity without potentially injuring yourself. So the fact that the cord actually assists the individuals to get up to speed and helps a bit to help the athlete sustain that speed allows the athlete to adapt and to learn the positions a lot faster. It's more about learning how to coordinate and how to use their bodies in sequence. And this allows it to happen and actually procures it to happen. So that was a big selling point to be able to do that and be safe.
You just said something there that I want to double click on. The fact
Mhm.
that you said that it helps the athlete understand or get the feel of the mechanics that you're trying to coach. Can you
Mhm.
talk a little bit more about that? Because that to me is really interesting because it's you're almost hacking the neuromuscular system by putting them in this. And what's your thought process? What are you seeing with that?
Yeah, whenever you're doing overspeed and you're towing them to a velocity higher than their own, their coordination, their central nervous system is adapting to this. From a technical model, meaning that
Mhm.
learning, from cueing and from having the athlete knowing how to hold their positions, this is teaching them what works and what does not work. So let's just say an athlete hip is trailing them and they have anterior pelvic tilt. Then they will know now from the first toe that this is what's slowing you down. Let's on the next toe focus on this and then apply. From the next toe, they'll feel like, you know what, this felt a lot easier and more effective for me to do. I probably need to do this more often and continue to lock in this concept. So it allows for us as coaches, for one, to have athletes adapt to higher velocities, it's almost like hacking
Hmm.
into the concept of learning how to coordinate the body and be in the proper positions to allow the velocity to occur, because it's telling you to a velocity that you may not be able to handle until you fix your technical ability.
Mm. There's definitely that self-organization piece, unless you just crank it up to 10 plus kilos, which no one really does, or you should do.
Right.
Like your brain is too smart. It's not going to let you just get, you know, poorly pulled down the track. But to kind of rephrase, get some different light bulbs from our GPS people, it's kind of just like increasing the high speed distance, right? Or more time under tension at those max velocity mechanics, just with a little bit of help, if I'm hearing you correct. And I guess that takes us to the next question of like, what gets you the most excited, or your top thing? I guess that's probably it. So I'll change the question. How would you describe your evolution? Kind of when you first got into it, you're like, sweet, I want to do overspeed with it. But everything is a learning process. So how would you describe your first kind of use? Was it kind of just 30 meters, 2 kilos, kind of feel it out?
Yeah.
Or was it just drills? Or kind of how would you describe the first evolution of your overspeed work versus like some of the stuff that you do now that you've learned, it's part of your routine. You know how to coach and program it better. So how
Yeah.
would you compare and contrast the beginning kind of versus now with your overspeed work?
So when I first got it, I definitely called Peter and you, Adam, and said, "Hey, what is the baseline? What can I get away with? What's legal out here? I don't want to be illegal. Help me be legal today, So they gave me, Adam told me what he's seen on average is 3 kg to 4 kg, somewhere between that range on overspeed. Um, I play with it. Now, you know me, anybody who knows me, I like to take some risks sometimes, So I went illegal a few times. I went to 4.2 and different things just to see
Only
how
illegal
far.
if you get caught.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, 100%. I didn't get
That's
caught, so
fine.
it wasn't on camera. Nobody saw it. It wasn't too crazy. Nobody fell in the shooting of this video, obviously.
Right.
So it was a positive experience. But what I witnessed was it doesn't really take a lot of kgs to appropriately receive the type of stimulus that I require for my athletes,
Mm.
specifically if they're extremely fast, and we have very fast athletes. So the fact that you're adding their velocity plus the slight toe, it's all you really need. You don't need to actually, drag, an individual down the track to make them a certain speed. So that's one of the main things I think that's very progressive for me from the beginning is not knowing the exact kg per individual. Also, the programming. So what I've started, and this is something that I just started doing with myself, and I've recognized it, how successful it's been. I will actually turn the kgs to a higher extent. So like, and I use the fine setting, meaning like between 3 point, let's just say I have an athlete who the last session was able to successfully and effectively use the overspeed at 3.2 kg. What I'll do is the next session, I will start them off at 3.3 kg or 3.4 kg, then trim them back down on the next run to a 3.2 kg. What it is sending a central nervous system stimulus overload to where their mind and their body has to, adapt to this higher level of towing or assistance. Then once I take it down a little bit, their adaptation and their coordination becomes extremely proficient because of the ability to adapt to it. And just from a confidence level, just from a psychology of an athlete, I'm telling them, hey, I'm turning down a little bit, and they're like, oh, okay, this is going to be easier than the last one. So they're coming in there, pushing out harder, accelerating further, and feeling a lot more confident. I've been receiving the best results by applying that concept with my elite athletes specifically, and just things of that nature. Also, along with adding assisted drilling, complementing the assisted sprinting, meaning that we're doing, let's just say, front side cycle drills, which teaches the athletes to cast to the front side, strike down, and apply force in a very effective and efficient manner while being cognizant of their hip positions and how the arms coordinate with their legs. This is a almost what do you call that? A static or slightly dynamic way of moving into a higher level of dynamic movement. You see what I mean? So it's like I'm priming them to get used to a position that's semi-isolated to eventually get into the full situation. And that's what I recognize, that, with the machine, we can apply it in the warm up, apply it into the actual training, directly correlating together. And that was one of the big things for me, was understanding how to program it from a more specific, finite way to be able to incur the stimulus that I require for my specific individuals.
So it went from just, hey, how do I do quote overspeed, right? What
Mhm,
is the distance? What is the load? I just want to quote do it, right?
mhm.
To then it evolved into it being a stimulus and a tool that you can mix and match and modify. And there's loads and there's distances and there's drills into truly kind of supporting you as a coach, giving the athlete kind of what they need, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Yeah, it definitely did. And I got a chance to learn assisted sprinting. So there's a difference, obviously, from assisted sprinting and overspeed. We're not reaching max velocity, we're actually just assisting the sprint. And, having the access to the new puck that allows the cord to come out.
A little
That's been
tease.
Yeah, yeah, a little teaser, a little teaser. Not everybody's able. I'm blessed to be connected. So with that aspect has definitely added a new layer of ability for my athletes, to where they're being told to a certain speed and let go of. And what it is actually teaching them how to accelerate out, how to not lose speed and position when they're coming out of their transitional phases from their drive phase and acceleration coming to max velocity. A lot of times athletes lose their position because either they're not knowing to keep themselves going forward or projecting forward, or they don't understand how to achieve it. So it's almost like a shortcut. We're forcing them to do it. Once they felt being forced to do it, they're actually able to, assimilate and adapt to that, and then replicate it later on without the court.
Just a little bit of encouragement.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
that's really good.
it
That's a
works
really
really well.
good point, though, Will, of like, and we've done this on one of our coaches' corner, talking the difference between that overspeed and just doing assisted. Like those are two different things. And I work with a lot of customers. I think we're discovering that it's not just towing at a max capacity, 105% of your max velo. That's not the only way you can use it. And I think you bringing up the dribbles or doing the front side assisted warm ups to get them prepped is a really interesting thing that people are asking me about. Do you have a specific load that you like to kind of throw on? Like, is that 2, 3, 4 kg?
Yeah,
What?
I'm in the 2-3 range for the assisted
Yeah.
drilling. So the assisted drilling, I'm doing 2 to 3 kgs, and then whenever I'm doing assisted sprinting, since I learned variable loading, I'm
Yeah.
able to,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm able to use the tablet finally, right?
There you go.
Yeah. So I use the tablet. We're able to get to a certain velocity and then have it trimmed down to a
Yep.
certain to lower kg, obviously. I start off with a higher kg, which will be more like, if I'm doing acceleration work, it'll be somewhere in the 3 to 4 for me, for me per se. And then I'll trim it down to like 2, to where it's not even that much on there at all. And it's been very proficient for my athletes. They've loved it. It's been awesome.
And when you're doing the assisted drills, what kind of distance would that be usually? Like ballpark? Is that 10 meters? Is that 20 meters? I'm not the track guy, so I have to
Yeah,
ask different
yeah.
questions
No,
like
no.
this.
That's actually a good question. So with specific drills like the cycle drill, I'm actually having them do that a lot further, because they need room to slow down, because the cycling,
Sure.
yeah, it actually propels them further out. So that's a longer drill. That's one of our longest drills. And I mean, that goes anywhere from, 40 yards to 50 yards or so.
Okay.
And
Wow.
the other drills, let's just say triple switching, stuff like that, the basic drills, those were going like 30 yards or so.
Okay. That helps. Yeah, I was thinking way shorter in my head, so that's really good that I'm glad I asked because I was way off.
Those track people are built different, but I'll give three kind of definitions, and then I'll get us to the last question. So we'll mention the fine adjustments. So
Mhm.
we have the whole kilo, right? +1, +2, etc. And then we have fine, so plus 0.1, plus 0.2, right? So that's an option to be super, super precise, especially when we're talking about like 2 to 5 kilos. That's the range. Well, every point one is like a pretty decent percent, right? Versus resisted sprinting when you're going, 3 kilos up to 20 plus, right? Et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
The second thing you mentioned was the puck, the speed belt, the speed release.
Mhm.
So to be out soon, where once the athlete runs past the puck or it's like a little thing on the ground, the belt releases, so the athlete is no longer connected to the machine. So that'll be an awesome product. And the last thing is variable loading. So you can set the machine to change from one load to a different load when the athlete reaches a certain speed. So how Will reference where it gives you more load for the initial acceleration, kind of help you get up to speed. And then once you get to, I don't know, 5, 6 meters a second, once you're kind of cooking, then it'll drop down. So it's more just you, right? So they can go light to heavy or heavy to light, but that's what variable kind of loading means. So last kind of question. I guess I'll flip it on you. If I gave you a call, I said, Will, just got my 1080. I'm super excited about doing overspeed, kind of like when you called Adam. If
Yeah.
you had to give someone some homework, right? Some drills, some loads, some distances to kind of start their overspeed journey, something a little bit more kind of concrete, where would you start them out?
Yeah, I would think drilling would be the first step to, understand how it feels to be towed, in an isolated environment that's a bit safer, that's not overly complex, and then progressively move into shorter distance of overspeed. When I first initially did it, I didn't go into 90-meter overspeed. I did 70, 75 meters, more comfortable spaces to do it. The danger, people speak of danger, obviously, but everything in sports and training comes with some sort of risk. But the danger of doing things a little bit too extensive too early is, you may not have the hardware, which is the physical capacity to handle, being front side and being towed over your distance of speed, or you may not have the, muscular endurance to handle it multitude of times, right? So that's another conversation. Just do it once at first. Don't do many of them. Just allow the stimulus to hit, and then I would say over time, which will be, session per session. So let's just say you do a session a week, you can start to add more as you go. I wouldn't just come in and just do 3 pulls right away. Now drilling, you can drill. You can drill as much as you like. It's an isolated, situation. So that's more of a concrete, way of approaching the initial phases of learning over speed without being illegal. Like I said earlier, when I called Adam, I didn't want to be illegal. So this is the legal way. Now, if you're feeling froggy, go against everything I just said.
Fantastic. So I want to say thank you very much for your time joining us between two sprints. And I would be remiss if I did not roll out the red carpet for you to shamelessly plug, emphasis on shameless.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? Where are you posting your good training stuff? And yeah, how do they learn more about Fast You?
Yeah, Fast University on every platform. Just look up Fast U. I'll be there. And I mean, I appreciate you guys for having me as always. I love being part of the 1080 family. It's been a great adventure. I look forward to more.
Hey, real quick, do you have any where do people go to find about your clinics besides social media? Anywhere else? I mean, because
Oh,
you're always
we're
popping
yeah, we're
clinics, so I just
creating
want to make sure.
we're creating a website right now actually. So we're gonna have a faster clinic website. But if you go on my Instagram, they're under my bio, so you can look at all of our clinics there. But yeah, we have a website coming shortly.
In person, online, everything in between. So thank you, Adam. Thank you, Will. And looking forward to the next one.